Welcome to Amateur Decorating Like a Pro. I am Catherine. As we head into the winter months, time is running out on getting those fireplaces prepped and ready to be used. I wanted to get this one done for a long time. Back in maybe 2018, I was so frustrated during fall that I decided to just whip out some household paint, and I painted not only the mantle, but I also painted the front. I painted the hearth, and I just wanted it to be bright and get rid of that dull brown tile. Well, here we are this summer, and I wanted to go ahead and do some tiling. No tile. I pulled in so many choices, probably brought home about 5 samples, and I just said, wow, the pricing is out of control. So let's just go back to basics. Perhaps I can do another 2-year project and wait for things to come back into focus with supplies. So here I am with my sander. I'm removing this paint because, as we know, standard household paint does not adhere to tile. And I'm just removing it. This process basically took about 10 minutes for the front as well as the hearth. Next, I grabbed my sander, and this is a 40 grit, and I also have some 60 grit. In other words, they really rough up the tile, and you can tell how white it's going to actually get, that I'm really removing that top coat, getting that tile really rough so that it will take the paint that I'm going to add. Now, side note, I am still going to use household paint. I didn't sand the very first time that I applied paint. High temp paint feels tacky and sticky, so I added it just a little bit, so you could say it's about a 3-1 mixture to the household paint, and I added it to it so it would really stick to this rough tile, and I'm pretty pleased with that process. I didn't do this much sanding the very first time that I painted this entire thing cream. I didn't do that. I changed out my sanding pad 3 times because I really wanted to rough it up. You see the difference here? Wow, that's really roughing up that tile. Let me say this first of all, you want to wear a mask. You definitely want to make sure that you are protected. You're going to need gloves, and you're going to need masks. You might need some cloths to wipe things away. And obviously, for painting, you'll need painter's tape, paintbrushes, and paint. So I just want to make sure that you first and foremost take precautions. If your eyes are sensitive around dust, definitely wear protective eye gear. And also make sure regardless that you have on a mask. The grout had cracked in some places, and I did have some old grout from where I tidied up the bathroom a little bit. So perfect, doesn't worry, doesn't matter to me what color it is because we're going to paint over it. So I did use my finger really quickly and got it done. I did a quick sample of the blue paint just to see how it would look and if I could get the right shade. So if you see the paint before I painted the inside of the box, just know it was a sample. Now, further down the line, when things get back to normal, I'm looking at replacing the logs. So right now I'm evaluating how much cleaning I have to actually do. The screen I'd like to just remove and just wash down in the laundry room sink, but unfortunately it would be difficult for me to get underneath that hood part and just take that out. So I don't want to hurt my hands. So you know what? I'm going to do it the old school way. Going to do a paintbrush, brushing away the dust, and use some of the high temp paint to give it an update. Now, this is pretty typical, not just because I'm doing this project, but I do this every spring. I get down here and I dust and clean and get all of that soot out because, even though these are vent free, you still need to make sure they are clean. Gas is not necessarily clean all the time. I mean, you have dust, so you definitely need to be careful and have these units cleaned out. The company that we use to keep our fireplaces clean and safe, they charge us about $85 to $95 a year. So if you are burning these units in your home, you definitely need to have them serviced. And don't take for granted that dust or soot is not going to build up along that box or on the walls of or even the top of it. You need to keep them clean. Do I have an opinion about peel stick tiles? Yes, I do. And this is solely my opinion in this segment. This is Rust-Oleum's high temp paint. Tough enamel paint that resists heat up to 1200 degrees. I'm going to paint the box with it. Now, I want to say that I have taken precautions. I have made the calls and spoken to our Fireplace service people. And as they have stated, this is very popular to paint the boxes of the fireplaces. However, we also are taking additional precautions. We are already using our fireplaces on a low flame to make sure that we are burning off any fumes or anything that could come about when the doors are closed and the house is warming up and it's cold outside. There is no need to use our fireplaces for the next couple of months. So we're just going to go ahead and take that precaution. So we definitely did our homework. I mean me, before I did this project. So I just want to let you know. Now, another side note I want to make is using these peel stick tiles around your fireplaces. Please take precautions and do your research. Not all of these peel stick tiles are safe to use around a heated area. So you want to be careful. Those that are in the aisle that are grab and go, they say absolutely nothing about flame retardation or heat resistant, nothing. So just be careful about getting them, whether they're gifted to you or whatever. Be careful about using those around the fireplace. The most deceptive thing about the peel stick tiles is they will have a picture of a fireplace on the front of the peel stick tile. But the verbiage will say absolutely nothing about being flame resistant. That means you should not buy it. You definitely don't want to use peel stick tiles around your stove area. So in other words, if it has nothing to do with being flame resistant or fire resistant or flame retardation or whatever words they want to use, if those words are not on there verbatimly, then do not put the peel stick tiles on your fireplace or in your stove area. So I don't like flying off willy-nilly doing these tasks, and especially being someone on social media, I definitely didn't want to do this video without telling you all the pros and the cons, okay? Now back to our regular scheduled program. I am getting as far in here as I possibly can. And keep in mind that, I am looking forward to our service to come out and take these logs out. And when he does, I'll get the other areas back there. I might not, because you really can't see them. I'm only painting the sides and not the top. I did mention that you should be wearing gloves. I'm not wearing them here because they were so hot on my hands. They were so hot. So I removed them just for a moment and I ran my hand underneath some cold water. So just for a little while, I worked without my gloves. That looks so much better, doesn't it? Just like they were new. And in case I didn't mention it before, even though I think I did add some of that high temp paint to the regular paint. And as you could see from painting the box, how gooey and how thick that paint was. And this pretty much happened to the paint here in blue as well. Now this is the same paint that I used to paint the inside of the fireplace, the same paint. I had planned to add a coat of polyurethane to the top of the blue paint, but with the addition of the high temp paint and having sanded the tile really well, I don't see the need to add that polyurethane. I might change my mind a little bit later, but I'm just sharing with you my plans. So now as you can see, I painted the entire front, hearth included, with the same paint. I did all of the painting in one day. That's the box, the trim, and the hearth. I did all of that in one day. And I waited for 24 hours to add the epoxy. Please forgive me for abusing the word epoxy. I say epoxy sometimes, and then I say epoxy sometimes. It's just fatigue, guys. I am using the Extreme resin. It is a non-flammable, no fumes epoxy. And I chose this one because it is non-flammable. Now, if you're going to do a project like this, do your research. It comes in 2 half-gallon containers. There's part A and part B. You mix them 50-50 in a plastic container. As you can see here, I have this large cup, and this was all that I needed to complete this project. I recommend that you start from the corners and work your way toward the front. Now, some of these epoxies can set up shop really, really fast, but most of them will give you about a good 20 minutes to work with them. And they go on really smooth. It's like spreading honey on a biscuit. So this took about 15 minutes. Just read your instructions before you begin the process. I was surprised that this one container of epoxy mixture was all I needed to do this hearth. That's all I needed. And this is the first application. I do still have one more coat to go. It hasn't been done yet because it just arrived with a new supply. I went on to do other projects with the remainder. But anyway, this one container did the hearth. And as you can see, it's very easy to apply. But the tiles, once again, they're very uneven. They're tilting up and tilting back. Now, this first application is doing all of the hard work. It is self-leveling all of these uneven tiles. So once I do the second coat, then everything should be level. Now, once I was done spreading the epoxy all the way to the edges of the mantle and all the way to the edges of the floor, I took my heat gun, and where I saw bubbles, I basically just rubbed the heat source over it until those bubbles were gone. I didn't want to stay in one spot too long. That cord almost got me there, guys, but it didn't. But I made sure that those bubbles were popped. Now, you see those little floaters floating around? That heat gun is causing dust to kind of move about, and I tried my best to get rid of all the dust in the area, but there was nothing I could do. But this smoothed out so well, and I was so impressed with the outcome. Now, my hair is pulled back. You want to make sure that your hair is out of the way and that you don't have anything on that can drop lint or dust or any kind of particles onto the surface. The good thing about this is my color is blue. So imagine if this was a white surface, anything possible that hits this is going to show up. I turned the ceiling fan off. I didn't want anything going on that way. We do have our windows open on both sides of the fireplace for now, so I'm pretty good with the ventilation. But I just want to let you know that some precautions were definitely taken during this process. Even though epoxy is self-leveling, you can thin it out a little too much by excessively using the heat gun. Now here I did use it a little too much in one area, and that is the area that you're going to see in the very end that has some problems. Well, I don't really want to call it a problem, but you know, I'm just being a little anal about some things, so I have to be honest about the outcome of the project. Now, I thought I'm not going to be able to use my little spreader or scraper ever again, but I was wrong. So I took some of the sanitizing wipes and I was able to just wipe the epoxy right off of it, guys. I was so happy that I didn't have to dispose of it. It came in a pack of like 6 for other projects, but yeah, I did not lose this one at all. And then I just placed it in the sink with some little soapy water and cleaned it right on up. It has been 24 hours. Go ahead and remove the tape, and you're going to see some dimples and just a few little sinkholes in the epoxy. And I know that I have to basically sand those tiny little areas with a 220 grit sandpaper. And my husband says, if you didn't tell me to look that close, I would not have paid any attention to it. And I'm like, well, you know, the tile is uneven. He was like, I never even knew it was uneven all this whole time. He's, you're the one that pays attention to that kind of stuff. So I went ahead and I removed the tape. And I said, well, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to come back and all of these little bitty little dimples or pimples in the epoxy, I'm going to just lightly sand with a 220 grit, and you just pour a little epoxy in that area and heat it up, and it'll self-level and you won't see them. He said, I still don't see them. Now tell me, am I being a perfectionist about this project? Would you go back and just sand these little areas and level out with more epoxy, or would you consider this project done? So you know what I am going to do, and it won't take long. I gotta wait 3 days though, because our Fireplace serviceman is going to be here on Tuesday. So this is only going to be about a 20-minute project for me to do these little spots. So I have got to do it. I'm just assuming some of you are answering for my husband right about now. This was my first epoxy project. Now I'm doing everything. You gotta subscribe to see it, guys. Okay, we're rocking a pink chair this month. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so please make sure that you're getting your mammograms done. Well, that's it for me, guys. I want to thank you so much for stopping by. Remember, we have videos every Sunday and some days in between. We're a channel for tutorials, home decor, furniture transformation, and design. If you're not a subscriber, consider doing so today. And as always, stay in prayer and stay creative.